Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I'm having a little bit of a smile going on here because it wasn't that little bit of a frantic mode. It's going to take some time for me to get used to this. And in getting used to it and in still experimenting, right, there are going to be little hiccups along the way. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I could set this camera back a little bit further. I don't like really being like a headshot or anything, but it is in that experimentation. It is in trying things out. Another thing that I am trying is I turned off my Wi-Fi just to see if the interference on the live show would be a little bit better out of the corner of my eye that I can see some flickering. Tomorrow, what I'll do probably is I'll set it on airplane mode and see if that works out better. But again, it's just in trying things out. And I'm not afraid to experiment. I'm not afraid to fall flat on my face well, I'm not going to say in whatever I do because falling flat on your face isn't always pleasant, but it's not anything that I'm not unfamiliar with, right? And especially in being on YouTube, in being I'm not using it as an excuse, but being a baby boomer in this age of AI learning, it's up to me and it's going to be in my choices whether or not to step forward in being a participant in this age of technology, this age of AI learning. And actually, in just talking about that, I was watching something here. Bernie Sanders. I didn't know he was a senator. I knew he was a smarty pants out there. I knew that he was somebody who was valued for his insight, that I knew he was a big player, but not being somebody that I was actually being drawn to. Again, it's in those things that come across my path that catch my curiosity. And I don't know why it caught my curiosity, but it did. Actually, it was the thumbnail. It was the title of the video, which was AI could wipe out the working class. Kind of sounds a little bit Terminator, doesn't it? Right? And I did go in and I was listening to it intently, and I haven't finished the video, but I found it very interesting. And they were talking about how fast this age of AI learning is moving, and it's going to be in our choices to learn, because if we don't learn, right, computers, bots, the technology in itself, and like I said, I'm not technically inclined, I bumble along, but I'm getting to understand how important it is for us to stay on top of it, to look for those out solutions if it should, right, outsource us to the technology. You know what I mean? That as humans we won't have a say, we won't have possibly even a place or any kind of footing when it comes to existence. And that could actually be detrimental. Again, that movie Terminator coming to my mind. And people think that might be fallacy. That's just beyond anything, that they could just hit a switch and we could just reset everything, but that is not true. Again, the computers are learning to turn the on and off switch on themselves, and they're doing the coding themselves, and I don't know anything about that. The topics do come across my path, but because I don't have that inclination to delve deeper, and because I'm not the expert in those fields, right? I tend to stay in my own realm of understanding, and not only stay in my own realm of understanding, right? Just like this idea that something comes across my path, it catches my curiosity, I go in, and it puts me in a state of, ooh, should I delve deeper? Should I become the expert in that? And I have to say, no, but it did come across my path for a reason. And I think that reason is because I do have that know-how to go in deep, and not maybe to look for resolutions, but to actually feel things out and maybe give insights to those experts out there that might possibly have that ability to look at things in a different way. When I was watching this video and I was listening to these experts, and they were experts talk about this subjects, I kind of thought, in this day and age, what could be the trip up? What could be that button that we could push and to make it a reset? And I think that is, right? Just eliminating the age altogether, right? That idea that I was thinking, that sometimes when they say that there's going to be a fallout of meteors, or there's something going on in the atmosphere that could mess things up here on earth. And I know every once in a while they send those little warnings across, and it gets across my path, and they say, oh, okay, there could be some hiccups when it comes to the internet, or to whatever you're doing in this, right, this age of technology that I'm not an expert in. But if we could have these ideas and just kind of chew them and be aware that there's something that we should be chewing on, because, right, I wouldn't like to see any more wrenches thrown into mankind's existence. The whole idea for me is to keep moving forward, that we are evolving into something bigger, something better, something more evolved. And what that looks like, I don't think any of us, without looking way, way far behind, or sorry, way, way far ahead, that we are not going to have that insight, right? That possibly at that point, it won't be Senator Bernie Sanders, it will be Senator R2D2, right? Like that we will be answering to something that we're not a part of. And at that point, it's not, there being a small man, it will be man being small. That because we will be run by something that is for so far beyond our understanding that there's no point in even trying, right? Okay, you guys, being Friday night, I thought, and hello, let's just come in here and see. Oh, Eugene is in here tonight. Hello, Tammy. I saw your comments on YouTube. Well, I didn't see the comments, but I saw that you had commented. But because I turned my Wi-Fi off and I was just kind of dealing with what was going on with here, that I decided that I'll come in later on and see what you've been watching today. I'm always curious to see what catches your fancy. Um we'll see. Maybe Earl will come in tonight and say hi. And if anybody else wants to pop in and say hi, right? Uh, yeah, be amazing. I thought maybe we just kind of keep it light today, but only because I've been kind of in the topics heavy. I've just been kind of being yanked this way and then yanked this way, and then I come right back to my center, which is, the most important thing that I can do. It's part of my grounding because I know where my trunk of the tree is. And I know if I go too far down the side branches because I was led that way, that I know at any time that I could just turn around and come right back to the main branch of the tree and just be grounded in there for a little bit. But it was a little bit of swinging and that pendulum back and forth. But that's the season that we're in, isn't it? Because everybody out there has a perspective. Everybody is vying for our attention, and it's to each one of us to decide what we're going to delve into, right? That And for me, I've always found solace in myself in understanding that I can just deal with what comes across my path, that I can just immerse myself in what comes across my path if it catches my curiosity. But sometimes we get into that state where we become kind of compulsive, kind of drawn in and hypnotized by anything and everything except in what we're supposed to be doing in the moment. And I'm grateful that I recognize that. And so I tried to stay in the pertinent lessons for myself today. And I had different plans for my day, and I didn't set up a plan B. So my plan B today was pretty much, right, being on that pendulum, like Miley Cyrus in that that music video. Was that Wrecking Ball, right? Where she's just sitting on the wrecking ball and she's just swinging back and forth, and that can mess us up because even though we think that we're strong, that we are set in our ideas, right? It's important for us to be willing to look at different perspectives. But when you're on that swing where you just really don't know where your place is in the moment, even though you know deep inside that it's supposed to be on the main branch, when you're not confused, but allowing yourself to be distracted. And that's what it is in that distraction. And it's up to us to have that moment of clarity where we can just say, okay, Cindy, it's a little bit heavy, right? So, and again, they're topics that I don't feel are in my they're supposed to be in my line of vision. And that's why it makes me curious. Was that something that was meant to catch my attention, right? Just in a fancy title on a thumbnail, or the thumbnail itself, or even that word, right? Senator Bernie Sanders. I had no idea that he was a senator, right? So I'm probably now, because my curiosity is going, that after my live show tonight, I'm going to go see what's going up with this Bernie Sanders, right? Because he does seem to me that he has a bit of a punch, that he has a bit of a standing in the community of at least North America, I would assume. And yeah, so I'm curious to know a little bit more about him. But right, maybe it was just the content that I had stumbled onto about the the age that we're in and how it's becoming so far beyond our understandings, even the people who think that they're the experts in that. And I would say I would probably use Elon Musk as an example in that because, when it comes to technology, I mean, the guy's planning on going to Mars and he's looking for solutions for planetary new homes for human beings, that plan B, right? That he would be somebody who we could look to for possibly these solutions. I have no idea why it came across my path because I work in emotion. The only thing that I can think of is the fact that I have this passion for evolution. I have this investment that we are going to evolve, that we are not going anywheres, right? That we are in the process of saving ourselves, right? Saving ourselves. And so it makes me curious. It does make me curious, but again, I don't want to be standing in fields of technology where I don't feel I have a seat or should have a seat in that because, right, I've been moved along in this idea that we should stay in our own line, right, of understanding um in our own visions of what we're supposed to be doing rather than moving along in somebody else's vision. But I also understand things come across my path for a reason. And I will go in tonight and see if I can find that reason. But in the moment, we are going to pull up a card. It is Friday. So we're just going to do a nice little short one, nothing super heavy. But you never know. Once I pull the card, you never know because I never know, right? Okay, you guys. So let's pull the card, and I'm going to come in and see if that static or whatever it is still bothersome. If it is, then I will come at the problem. And I don't know if it's a problem, but I'm going to come at it in a different way and see if I can come up with a better solution. Because if I could find this, right, I could find something else. And that's the truth. And I appreciate that no matter how I come in, that you guys are coming in and hanging out with me, and whether or not the topic of discussion is impactful or not, right? At least I would like to think that you think I'm entertaining. Okay, you guys, here we go. Uh We're just gonna pull a card. You just gotta laugh at yourself sometimes, and that's important too. I'm gonna get outside tomorrow. I didn't get out today. That might have been a good solution for me. But again, it's those things that come across my path, and I did have other plans, and those other plans in um did did and did mean that I was going to be out and about, but it didn't work out that way. And I just ride the waves, and that's what I did instead. I allowed myself to be put in the tumbler a little bit. Okay, so here is the card. Effort. That's a good one today, you guys. Effort. Where there is no effort, there is no gain, right? And I guess that's what kind of happened to me today is because I didn't have a plan B because my day I had already had plans for it and it didn't work out the way that I had expected. So I allowed myself to be just kind of put in that tumbler, and I could say to myself, um, that there wasn't any effort in that, but I was running by the seat of my pants. I was adapting and conquering, and I decided that today I was going to allow myself to be drawn in, which I did. And in that, and getting a few things done around the house, that I was actually in contemplation, and was thinking that maybe I might like to do a little bit of writing to see, you know, that I was thinking actually that when I retired, you guys all know that I want to do the RV life, right? I want to retire on the road if at all possible, or at the very least I want to spend a lot more time in the provincial parks and in Mother Nature and out on the road. And I thought, when I was camping, and because it gets so dark at night, right? And then when you're not ready for bed yet, that it's going to be amazing if I could possibly write a book, right? And I have a couple of novels in my head, a couple of stories that I would like to, well, it's actually a trilogy is what it is, but can we start with one book and then possibly move in and see how that works out, and then move in to something a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more deeper, and started off light in the topics that interest me. Now, I don't know if I have it in me to write a book, but I trust that in my own experiences in my life, starting out as a child, that there is that inclination, is that the word? Inclination, that idea that it's quite possible that it might have been something that I was meant to do, that I had the inclination to write as somebody, even in my younger years in school, that I thought possibly that that was something I was meant to do. But unless I put that effort in, and there's the word that we have today, where there is no effort, there is no gain. And just like so many other things in my life that I had given up on, whether it was a dream for myself, a dream for my life, if it was something in making me feel like I mattered, that I belonged, and because I didn't, these things that came across my path that I thought possibly that I would be good at. Like, you guys hear that I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a little kid, but there was a time when I did want to be a writer. There was a time I wanted to be a figure skater. There was a time that I wanted to be a competitive swimmer. And life just moved me along, and I moved along with that life. But because I had those insecurities and those limiting beliefs in myself, none of that ever manifested. All those possibilities in my life became not even failures, because I never even really put an effort in them. The first thing that made it so that I felt that I wouldn't be able to accomplish it, I just shut the whole idea down. I think as I move forward, and with a few more lessons along that tool belt of mine, I think possibly maybe it's time to drum some of that up, to pull those ideas and those dreams and those goals out of the tinkle trunk, right? That's what we used to call it when we were kids, or tinkle trunk, I think it was called. And you open up all those memories, and all those you could say costumes, a costume trunk, right? But it was all those put away dreams that I had, and I just put them away as memories, and never even thought that, I would ever pick up a pen again, right? That I would get into a bathing suit again or put on a pair of skates again. And I know things of I know some of those dreams and some of those goals that I have are just really not realistic at 64 years old. But there's still things that I can do, that I can accomplish if I set my mind to it, if I put that effort. And I really believe that, right? When I first woke up to some of these ideas, I was just totally confused and bewildered. And I just moved forward anyway, right? I just kept moving forward, just understanding that, something would open up to me and it would just be like the prerequisite to the next lesson or to the next understanding. And even if I didn't get it, even if I didn't understand it, right? If I put that effort in and I didn't quit on myself, that something would come out of it. But that's the thing, right? That's that effort. Where there is no effort, there is no gain. Lots of people aren't even trying, right? And if they're not trying, just like this says, there are zero possibilities, right? Zero possibilities of accomplishing anything. That's why I say it's so important for people, especially people maybe who've been beaten down in life a little bit, who were a little bit disillusioned, who might have had those limiting beliefs that, they didn't need anybody else to shut them down. They would just shut themselves down, thinking, oh my goodness, who am I to think that I could ever do that? And I came up with that solution for myself, was just to do it in baby steps. Understanding, right? You're going to start with the first lesson that comes across your path. Whatever comes across your path, that's what you're going to work with, right? And just do it slowly if you have to, right? Just take in as much as you can, deal with whatever you possibly can. If it gets too much, right? You have other interests, you have other goals, you have other dreams, you have hobbies and interests, and you can just work on that one or work on a different project. And you guys know, I am multifaceted in my interests. But in doing baby steps, I've managed to keep a lot of my interest. I've given up a lot of my interest too, and I've kind of narrowed it down a little bit. But it's in that combination, that assimilation, that synthesis of all the things that I love, that I have been able to manage to keep going, right? I explore the inside and the outside, but at one point it was just exploring the outside. And then COVID hit, then I was just exploring the inside. And now it's that accumulation, that amalgamation of both. And also at the same time, understanding, that I matter, that those things that I love, right? I could still love those things, and they can be things that could add to my brand, right? Because you guys know urban exploring. I was doing bushcraft videos. I've been doing my provincial park tours. Oh my goodness, I can't think about my live shows and working in mindset, right? Working in emotions, understanding emotions, and just the benefit and what it's done for my life. And all of it was done in baby steps. It was all done in little bites, and I didn't have to give up anything that I didn't want to give up. Not to say I didn't give up. There were lots of things that I gave up, but they were to benefit me and those stronger, more desirable, and those bigger ideas and those bigger goals and dreams that I had. And a lot of those things that I didn't give up, they were amalgamated and assimilated, and right, that synthesis, putting them all together in the same pot, that creates me, right? But none of that would have happened if I didn't put the effort in. And even though for lots of people they might think that that wasn't a huge effort, I could honestly tell you it was, right? And it's saying the person who sits at a desk all day and does their work on a computer is not putting in as much effort as somebody who is a construction worker and doing 8-hour shifts and 4 extra hours of overtime, all physical, right? But the mental is just as important, and the benefits and the and the difficulties are going to be different, right? I say all the time when I see guys and they're all hunched over when they're like 30 years old, and they just like no wonder, right? These guys are all broken old men by the time they're 30. It's because of the work that they're doing, the effort that they're putting in. And I like to be physical, but I'm doing non impact, right? Low impact exercise. I like the walks, the swimming, the bike riding, the little bit of hiking. But because I sit at my desk and I do my work at my desk, it doesn't make it any less difficult. It just makes it different, right? It just makes it different. And again, it's going to be in our choices, right, of what we're going to let go and what we're going to bring on board, and our capacity, how much can we take, right? And that's going to determine the effort that we put in. And in the end, right, even in the baby steps, everybody can work like a construction worker. But at 30 years old, when you're a broken old man, what are you capable of doing? You might not even be able to continue with the career that you've been doing for the past 10 years because you've broken yourself down, right? And yet, because I'm doing it in baby steps, I'm doing it in little bites, and I'm doing it slowly, I'm keeping going, right? What's that saying? The turtle in the hare, the turtle in the hare story, that the turtle in the end crosses the line first. But I do find it to be 100% true, right? Where there is no effort, there is no gain. It doesn't mean to go 100 miles an hour. It doesn't mean to work yourself to a bone, make yourself a broken old man, make it so you're incapable of enjoying your life or even carrying on in your career. Sometimes it's just about having that gumption of never giving up. And we talked about that this week, right? Never giving up and just doing those baby steps, and in understanding that as long as you don't give up, right, you have a chance of creating what you want to create for your life and the lives around you, right? And maybe possibly for people that you'll never meet, who will never be able to have that appreciation that you didn't give up, right? There are lots of people out there, right, not putting in any effort at all. They have zero, zero, zero chance, right? At least I have a chance. And anybody else who just doesn't stop, who just has that faith that even if they're going to do it slow, they're just going to keep going, right? Okay, you guys, it's Friday night. That's the end of my week here on my show, What's My Good Cheer. I'll be back on Sunday night for Chatters Live. Come and hang out with us. Tammy here is one of my moderators on Chatters Live, but I really appreciate her here on What's My Good Cheer, because What's My Good Cheer is a little bit heavier. It's where I really talk about and get into the understanding emotions and a little bit of that motivation and inspiration, right? And that little bit of understanding that, we've got to stay connected, right? In order to make any kind of movement at all. And even if it is just in those small bites, if we can at least keep that and put that effort into staying connected, we have a fighting shot. Okay, you guys, let's come in here for one more minute. I love hanging out with you, Cindy, and with others here on your channel, your subscribers and your listeners and fans. That's very sweet of you, Tammy. Okay, you guys. Everybody, have a great night. I'm going to go hang out in my studio and my YouTube studio and just check on to see what Tammy has been sending me in the comments and what she's been watching today. You guys, if you want to pop in Sunday, I'd be happy to have you. If not, we'll see you Monday night. Have a great night.